Yeah. Hey. Yeah.
Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome back to Blitzburg Squad. I'm Wesley Seeley alongside Shane Smith. Okay, Shane, the Steelers versus the Titans was set up for Week 4. We were ready to play them, 1 p.m.
Yeah, we were set, and then it came out the Titans had 5 positives.
Yeah, I think so, originally.
Then all of a sudden, it was Monday or Tuesday. So we had a press conference, and Mike Tomlin says, hey, we're going into this as if we're ready. And then as the days went on, the number just kept jumping up.
Right. And to fill everybody in that might have not already heard from it by now, I'm sure they have.
I would hope.
The game was postponed due to players testing positive. Postponed originally to Monday or Tuesday. And they didn't know a time. They thought like 5 or 6, maybe 7 or 8, depending on the day and the time. Then was it like Wednesday or Thursday? Wednesday, I think it was.
One of those 2 days.
They declared it was just going to be completely postponed until a later day, a later week.
Yeah, and they didn't, at that time, they didn't tell us what that was.
Yeah, exactly.
They didn't release
until
anything.
Further notice.
So the Steelers basically were forced into a bye after practicing, I believe, Monday through Thursday.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And so they essentially get Friday, Saturday, and tomorrow off, and then it's back to the grind again.
Back to the grind, getting ready for the Eagles.
So I guess, what are your thoughts on everything that went down?
How it was handled? Yeah, and everything went down. Originally, I guess, like, just coming up with the thought of it, I just was not very happy with it because, like, man, now this forces us into an early year bye. Like, and for people that know the schedule, knew we had a Week 8 bye right in the middle of the year. That's literally a perfect setup for how we had it, too.
Perfect setup. And like you and I have talked, we faced the Browns and the Ravens and then went into our bye. We had 2 divisional games.
Week 6 and 7, you had the Browns and the Ravens, and then you go right into your bye, which would have been great.
To get healthy after getting, beat up by those 2 teams.
Yep. So originally, I think I wasn't very happy because of that. And then also, too, along that fact is, like, looking into the schedule, having that early bye, it's like, man, it's like, do we suffer from this now? It's like, do we lose our groove? Like, I don't know. It's tough to tell. Like, not that we've had a great groove, but we're 3-0. Like, I like that. Like, and I like where we're headed. And it seemed like, from what I heard from Tomlin and the players, they were ready for this game. Like, they were looking forward to it. But
yeah, they were all ready for this 3-0. And what shocked me most is when they rescheduled, it wasn't a prime time. They still left it at 1 o'clock. I mean, granted, 4 weeks down the road, things could be completely different.
Yeah,
but
true. They could flex it, I guess.
At 3-0 and 3-0, you would think that they would want some sort of special timing on that.
Right.
But yeah, I would agree. I was pretty angry, especially because you don't like that early week bye. We're fairly healthy.
Right.
We would have been without Derek Watt, probably without Marcus Allen. And Deontay Johnson, as far as I know, is feeling pretty good.
Is he? Okay, I haven't seen an update.
I don't know if he would have played for sure, but from my understanding is he was feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
And so we really weren't going to miss any huge pieces. Yeah, there's bumps and bruises along the way, but as you get further in,
sure,
you're going to have bumps and bruises. And I think the most irritating thing to me about this whole thing is Mike Vrabel has come out and said, well, our players have done protocol well and stuff like that. I'm sorry, but if you've done protocol, you don't have 16 total between your personnel and your freaking players that are testing positive for this.
Right, and at the time of his comments, the Patriots hadn't tested, which we saw come out recently.
Yeah, with Cam Newton testing positive.
Exactly. So, but before that, Titans were the only team in the NFL, 32 teams, and they were the only one that came out and had this breakout happen. It's like,
the only one, because the only other thing was the Falcons, and I want to say it was week 1, one of their corners, and I think it was a practice squad corner, tested positive.
Oh, okay.
Nobody else was affected by it.
Yeah, because I heard even Pat McAfee talk on their show. They were like what can be done? Like if the Titans here are the only team that might have had people test positive, what did somebody invite somebody to their hotel? Like, what happened? And like,
yeah, it's something where they can say, yeah, you followed protocol, but something was screwed up.
Right,
I
I
mean,
agree.
somebody did something wrong, or they went to visit somebody that they shouldn't have.
Yeah.
And they didn't take their precaution, and in turn, it not only affected your team, it now affected our team and the Steelers. And who knows, because they keep testing positive, it could go on to affect next week too. And
Right.
then what does the NFL do?
Right.
Do they then have to add a week 18 just so the Titans can get their games in because of somebody's selfish act?
That's what I wondered was like, why didn't the NFL add weeks at the end of the year for this?
They've talked about adding a week 18 if the breakouts continue.
Yeah. I mean,
And so I'd be interested to see if they do it, because essentially then, if we go into playoffs, almost every team's guaranteed a bye at that point.
yeah.
And then just the number 1 seed would have a 2-week bye, which could have, good or bad.
Yeah.
And so there's different things I know they've thought about, but I guess just because the Titans are the only ones really right now, potentially the Patriots, but really just the Titans,
They've had the breakout.
we were able to kind of mix it around to where we now play them week 7. The Ravens now have their bye week 7, and in turn they then turn around and play us week 8, having
Right.
2 weeks to prep.
And I think that's what a lot of people aren't mentioning is like, yeah, I mean, we'll get into the positives maybe of this whole rescheduling, but one of the big negatives, at least in our minds, was like, man, like now that we play the Titans week 7, we got to turn around and play the Ravens week 8. So you got 2 great teams back to back, but the biggest problem is the week 7 is now a bye for the Ravens, and they have the week to get ready for and rest for us. So it's like,
Yeah,
man, that stinks. I feel like
it's
that was
horrible,
kind of
and they definitely, the Ravens won in this exchange for sure.
yeah, because for them to move their bye to week,
from week 8 to week 7,
yeah,
literally just a week sooner, and
I'm
instead
sure
they
that
get,
affects them so much.
yeah, they they get to prep quite a bit more.
Yeah.
They get to get a little bit healthier. They get to scheme against us one extra time.
Yep.
And another thing that I have that I'm wondering is, we've had some Steeler players go on social media and say, basically this sucks. This
Yeah.
is, I mean, in their own words and in their own tweets, they've said this sucks. We'll continue to do our job, but this isn't ideal. Mentally, you now only get 3 days off, and that's considered your bye, and then you go right back into the grind. Mentally, later on during the year, is that going to affect us? Are those players going to start getting burnt out because they got 3 days off, so they didn't have time to go home if they live out of state, and things like that? Or, football's not just physical. It is very mentally based as well, and if your mind's not 100% in it, you can catch that ball and not be thinking and get blindsided,
right.
And then you're down a guy. So
the only thing I can say too is I did see the Packers or heard the Packers do have a week 5 bye, so that kind of makes me feel a little bit better. Where it's like a week 4, where it does seem really early. It's not completely outrageous. I mean, the Packers were already scheduled as a week 5 bye without postponing or without rescheduling anything, so that kind of makes me feel a little bit better that we can do it. And then also too is, we might just be a team that just, stays on the hot hand. Like, once we have this bye, like, we might just go on a tear, like, just get better and better as the week goes on and just kind of stay in that rotation of, practicing and playing. So, I don't know. I could see it as a benefit and, a negative too. I mean, like, I don't know. The Steelers get hot. They go on their streaks usually in December. They're a great December team. So, like, to me, I don't know. I think they might use this as an advantage maybe because they can get the ship rolling with Tomlin and Ben.
Yeah, and I hope they do get it rolling. And I mean, we've never been a great team coming out of the bye. Typically, when we come out of bye, we look like we do week 1. We look pretty lazy. We just look disinterested. And I haven't watched out of the gate for a lot of other teams to know whether that happens with them or not. But I know certain teams, like the Patriots, when they had Tom Brady, never came out of the gate off of a bye looking lazy. I mean, how many first-round byes did they have in the playoffs and still, end up winning?
They always look solid.
And so us practicing may keep our bodies warmed up, and those that needed rest, that had those bumps and bruises that they were kind of hiding, it'll help. But it's just, overall, it's just frustrating. A game I wanted to watch, a game I was excited to watch to see if we were the real deal,
right?
And kind of prove ourselves. And at this point, everything's kind of messed up, and now, even though we still play the same amount of games and all of that, it kind of throws a wrench into the rest of our year's game plan.
Yeah.
Because now you can't anticipate that week 8 bye. And like I told you earlier, we play the Browns, the Titans, and the Ravens. All 3 of them are great at the run.
Yeah, and that's going to be a tough stretch too, you
Yeah.
know? And then also, too, along with it, you got the Browns, I guess it'll be Browns, Titans, Ravens, Cowboys.
Yeah.
So,
With Zeke, and I mean, all 4 of those can run it down your throat over
Yeah.
and over and over again, and that wears out guys.
Yep.
And stupid injuries can happen off of that. Somebody gets their ankle rolled up or something like that, and so that kind of makes me nervous now. To where you've played the Browns, you played the Ravens, you get that week off,
Mm-hmm.
and then you go and you play the Cowboys and kind of are somewhat healthy. To where now it's 4 straight, and it's just It's a brutal stretch.
Yeah, and I think, too, back to your point of, ready for this Sunday game against the Titans, it was going to be kind of a cool test to put them up against, because so far they haven't had the best talent against them. And not to discredit anybody they've played, but I guess just Titans are a great team, so I think this was going to be a really good test to kind of see where we were at, a good barometer to see where we're at. I don't know. I mean, I was excited for this game. I was excited for him to try to go up to Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's a great back. We've had a great rushing defense, so it's going to be a great battle. We'll still get to see it later in the year, but I don't know. I was just excited to see it this Sunday. And
yeah, it's something, especially being 3-0, because now weeks down the road, I'd be surprised if both of us are still undefeated.
Right.
And so it's one of those where it was nice to watch at that time, and now say the Titans go into week 7, and they're 3-2 now.
Yeah.
So now if we beat them, and we beat them handily, and say we're 4-1,
right?
Are they going to say, well, the Titans didn't look that great? They kind of fell off after that bye week. Well, now those haters are going to find something to thrive on.
I made that point to another one of my friends too. Was who's to say that Titans? I mean, they're 3-0 now, but who's to say they don't lose the next 3 games?
Mm-hmm.
And then we see them, and then they just start on a hot streak, they're just getting on a tear. Yeah. You don't know what kind of version you're going to get of a team depending on when you play them. So sometimes when you play them early, they look a lot worse than they do later in the season when they get things rolling. So it's I don't know.
It's going to be interesting.
It's hypotheticals, I guess, but it's
and we'll hopefully have more questions than answers as we get into that week 7 down the road. But
for sure,
for now, it's just kind of what we wish could have happened, and hopefully it doesn't happen again, especially for the Titans. Because if it happens again to the Titans and they break out again, honestly, I think the Titans have to forfeit the rest of their games for the year, especially if they're the only team. If Cam Newton tests positive and he's the only one on the Patriots, you get that from time to time. But then if you have another complete outbreak and it happens to be from that Titans organization, I personally think you shut them down because they're not doing something right. I don't care what anybody says. And at that point, you just play with the 31 teams the rest of the way.
Yeah.
And a couple of them get extra buys.
I saw a lot of Steelers fans say Titans should forfeit or have to forfeit this game. And part of me is they should. Shame on them. They had a broke protocol. They had to break out here. But if it was reversed and the Steelers were in the situation and it was just one stupid player breaking protocol, and the rest of them were doing their job, I wouldn't want to forfeit the game. Heck no.
Right, for sure.
I would be mad if they said, hey, Steelers got to forfeit this game. You got to take it as a loss. I would be upset. So
yeah, I agree.
I can understand, the Steelers, emotional side just being hey, yeah, they should forfeit the game. This isn't fair for us. We shouldn't be affected. And yeah, it is. It's 2020. It's how we're going to have to roll this season. But I wouldn't want to have that on our side.
You know
what I mean?
I agree. And, it's something where it's unfortunate, and if it's a one-time thing and it just happens to continue to go through the locker room, that stinks, and, you just kind of move on, pull that Bill Belichick and just say on to week 5.
Right.
But if it turns into a trend and it happens again, then they're doing something wrong.
Yeah, no, I agree with it there. If it did turn into a trend and it was like 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I mean, you got to just at some point.
Yeah, you got to cut them off and stop.
Or fine them.
And stop hurting the rest of the league. Yeah, and they've already started fining coaches for not wearing the mask.
Yeah, exactly.
$100,000. Whew.
Yeah, and they fined the organizations too. And it was like a total of $1 million, wasn't it?
Yeah, like 1.05 mil.
That's crazy.
Yeah, ridiculous. And they've threatened draft picks now.
Wow.
Yeah.
They're really cracking down on it.
So could you imagine, like, if a team lost their second or third round draft pick for not wearing a mask on the sideline, which Harbaugh took his mask down to yell at a ref, and nobody's brought anything up. It's like Ravens get away scot-free on it.
That's cool. That's fine.
Oh, irritating.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess the good thing is like, Deontay Johnson will have time to get healthy.
Yes.
We'll have time to get healthy. We'll have an extra week to prepare for Philly, which Philly hasn't looked that great, but it's still an extra week. I guess take it for what it's worth.
Yes. Still an extra week to prepare for a team that we historically seem to always lose to for no freaking reason. They could look horrible.
Yeah.
And we could be 15-0.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to lose to them.
Yep.
There's just something about that team that the Battle of Pennsylvania, Philly always seems to stink in winning.
They do, yeah. It's like Ben never looks good against their defense, no matter what their defense looks like. And then their offense always turns it on no matter what they look like for the year. So it's like, I hope we don't see that version of it. But
yeah, I'll be interested to see, like, since there's no Steelers football, I'll be watching the Eagles game just to kind of get a look at the opponents, you know.
Yeah, because other than highlights, I haven't really watched them. I watched a little bit of that overtime game with the Bengals.
Yeah.
The end of that, but they didn't look good there. But
yeah, so they play Sunday night, so I'll be watching that game just to kind of get a look. And I'm sure Steelers will be watching it too to see what kind of game plans and that they look. So
for sure.
Hopefully it's got its advantages, but it's just, you know, overall it just two words sum it up. It sucks.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, yeah, in the grand scheme of things, yeah, it does suck for sure. But it is what it is. I guess we had to roll with the punches somehow. So
yeah, the Steelers. I mean, we're a good team, and that 1 week bye going into the playoffs, you know, if we make it, could be much needed. And, you know, hopefully the Steelers are fighting for that and saying, listen, we need to bust our butts the rest of this year to get that first round bye and become that number 1 seed and prove all these haters that Ben still has it and our defense is top notch.
Yep.
And get that much needed bye that we really didn't get beforehand.
Yep. I agree.
So
I'm with you there for sure. Yeah, it stinks, but on to week 5 against the Eagles. So all right. Well, I think that's about it for the wrap up of this bogus week 4.
This update, if you want to call it an update, or a disappointing week 4 that the one that never was.
Yeah, right. It's more of a disappointment than it is an update.
Yeah. Just kind of two Steeler fans kind of venting their frustration about something that we were looking forward to, and just doesn't get to happen this week.
Nope. So, we'll see him week 7 though.
Yeah.
So, well, thanks for everybody tuning in to the Blitzburg Squad. We will be back probably sometime this week to go over the preview for the Eagles game.
Preview for Eagles.
Yep. We'll go over all things for that game and get everything ready. So, until then, go Steelers.
Go Steelers.